That was an unexpected glitch.
We always have to be prepared for those, don't we?
Yes. So I'm going to start again. Hello, welcome to another rapid fire virtual event on LinkedIn Live. I'm Moreno, your host, also known as the Customer Acquisition Architect. Your co-host is Deborah Reynolds, also known as the Now to Wow Diva. Deborah is the founder and president of About Face Image Consulting. Debbie, it's so good to have you here again. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be here. And hey, those glitches, I mean, they always happen. I find it's funny, but you do have to kind of, it's like fly by. We were talking about this, flying by the seat of your pants, right? You just kind of have to go with the flow.
Yes, the moment I said thank you so much for joining us, I heard silence, nothing from you. And that's when I discovered that one of the buttons were not pressed. It happens. Deborah, the topic of interest today is how to get comfortable on camera. And that is so very important nowadays when so many more people are jumping online. There are 5 sections that we are going to cover today. They are preparing a script, relaxing, dressing appropriately, smiling, practicing. Maybe we'll say something about relaxing. A reminder to our viewers, use the chat to text us your questions and comments. Please note that we can't acknowledge them in text during the chat, but only at the end. All right.
These are really good topics. Like Moreno, you picked a subject today that a lot of people have been talking about because they don't feel very comfortable on camera and they don't really know sort of where to start. And you've pulled together, we're going to be talking about some really good topics here and some really good points. And I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Me too. I think we should start with preparing a script, because that basically means that a person has to think, has to decide how one wants to move forward, what the points are that one wants to touch on, how one wants to say it. That requires one to put pen to paper and jot out points, create a framework within which to move. Otherwise, one keeps going off at a tangent. Under this subsection, we have several points that we should discuss. Let's see.
Preparing the script is a really important part because a lot of people, they can wing it if they wanted to be able to do it. But knowing that they have a specific timeline that they're working with, a deadline or a very specific finite number of minutes to deliver, and they want to get specific points across, the clarity of mind, putting it pen to paper ahead of time, is a really big part of that process.
So, Deborah, how important do you feel it is to prepare a script when shooting a marketing video?
I think it's critically important. And I don't think you need to do word for word scripting. I believe that even if you have bullet points with a few key phrases that you want to include in the process, that becomes important because you want to stay, as we were saying, on topic. And then there needs to be a natural flow to the process. But I believe it's incredibly important for that clarity of mind. It also significantly reduces stress and overwhelm in the process.
Yes, the operative words there are incredibly important. That's why they say never get in front of a camera without having prepared a script. Know what you're going to say, know how you're going to say it. And, well, depending on the type of video that is being produced, a detailed script may be required or not.
That detailed script, Moreno, can be really important for practicing and just getting the flow of the words and knowing how you want to say it or how you want to present it. So I think if you initially flush it out, it gives people a lot more comfort in the process. And then they're actually going to maybe perhaps streamline those words or condense them a little bit to make really significant points in their discussion, where they kind of lean into the camera and make a point, which doesn't have to be a long sentence. It could actually be a very short phrase that's impactful and actually draws that listener in.
Yes, and say it or write the script in the way that you're going to speak it.
Right.
So that will sound more natural. And of course, once the script has been prepared, we need to learn it, read it over and over again, make adjustments, change ideas, because the more familiar we become with it, the more fluent we will be when we present online.
Yeah, and you'll remember when you're working through this script, while I usually don't recommend that people are memorizing the whole process. I mean,
Never,
it's possible, but if people are a bit nervous, the memorizing can sometimes go out the window. But what it does is every time you're practicing the flow of the script, in your mind, you're logically connecting all the points together so that you will, in your mind, intellectually and emotionally feel the flow to it. So it'll make it a lot better to be able to communicate the points and to arrive at sort of your final conclusion that you want to make.
Yes. And we must not forget, be sincere and candid on camera. In other words, speak from the heart.
I agree. That is really important. I think more than anything now, I mean, you and I have talked about the know, like, and trust factor, but that authenticity, the words actually have to be your own words, the way you naturally communicate, because if it feels awkward, people are going to notice it right away and they're going to go, this doesn't quite sound right or even feel right. They're not going to feel that positive energy that is required to make a connection with people through that camera.
Yes. And apparently when we on camera, we need to show more energy, more oomph than usual. It may feel uncomfortable. I know it was like that with me. And people would repeatedly tell me more energy. And I would put in more energy. It would feel uncomfortable at first. But afterwards, especially after looking at recordings, I could see what people meant, that I needed to put in more energy. And that's what I want to say, that people need to record their presentations and watch their presentations. They will be pleasantly surprised what they see. At first, they might be scared. I was, but then we get used to seeing ourselves online. We're comfortable seeing ourselves in video recordings.
Yeah, and it's really important that we not be too judgmental of ourselves, because that is one of the dangers that kind of creates more fear and where we sabotage ourselves, is where we're judging ourselves and thinking we're being way too harsh in terms of how we show up, or our voice, or our presentation, or how we use our hands, or the voice inflection. So I think it's really important. You just got to get out there and you got to practice, because listen, there's going to be a lot of raving fans out there that are going to go, thumbs up, I like the presentation, let's just go for it. And really, you want to pay attention to the people that are most supportive of you. But you're absolutely right about the energy. You have to bring that energy up. And it works a lot better when you have sort of engaging discussion that is humorous, or you're laughing, or you're smiling. That will naturally raise the energy level.
Talking of energy, Deborah, do you think we are putting in enough energy now?
I think so. I think people are viewing that energy. You could be really loud and in somebody's face, but I think it also depends on the audience that you're dealing with and how you interact with people. Energy can be facial expression, and it can be inflection. It could be the leaning in of the camera. It could be a variety of different things, but it'll be really interesting for those people that are watching this particular video to give us feedback on that energy. I want to hear what they have to say about that.
Would be nice would be nice when they put comments on. And another word that comes, synonym, perhaps we can call it, that comes to mind when we talk about energy: enthusiasm. People need to be enthusiastic because it's contagious and it becomes entertaining.
I agree. And that passion that you have for your business, the message that you want to deliver is going to be more well received when people feel that energy from you. That's critically important.
Yes. The next section, you mentioned practice. Practice is important. And people need to realize that it takes time to get comfortable in front of the camera, which means we need to practice again and again and again. It doesn't happen overnight.
I agree. So you have to put in that time and you have to put in the effort to it. And it starts off, what I would recommend is people start off with a really short video and practice that a few times to get comfortable speaking into the camera, looking at the camera, rather than looking off to the side at a particular screen, wherever, if you have multiple screens. So, or looking down at your laptop. So that part is the practice part of it, but it is also how you center your camera. I mean, that's a variety of different things that we're going to talk about, but that practicing component is, you just can't get away without it. It's important.
Yes, there are many aspects to take into account to successfully shoot an online video. And it is best done with someone else's guidance, someone else who's experienced. And then definitely we do become sort of experts as well eventually when we've done it often enough. A number that has been thrown around is don't shoot the same video more than 9 times a day, because then apparently there's no further improvement. Rather just end it and start again the following day.
That's a really good point, because it reminds me of a very well-known speaker, who has practiced nearly 100 times for keynote presentations. And what happens is the emotion gets taken out of it, the energy gets taken out of it after a while. So it is really important that we limit that amount of time and that it comes across a little bit more naturally instead of rehearsed. I mean, actors and actresses do things a little bit differently when they're practicing their lines, but they actually, emotionally get right into the character and try to feel from inside the character to present. We're doing things a little bit differently. So we're sharing content, we're sharing information, we're sharing a message, a story, a why. We could be entertaining as well. But if you practice it too much, the emotion can go out of it if you're not trained to keep that emotion in.
Yes, don't suppress your personality. Be yourself. Don't put on a persona that is not you.
I agree. Yeah.
And being lovable on camera means being comfortable on it, which comes eventually, not in the beginning.
And you know what? As an audience, not everybody's going to love you as a speaker. You have to understand that. You're naturally going to attract the people that love the message, the way that you present, even the tone of your voice. So you have to be prepared that there's only going to be a certain percentage of the audience that's going to go, I want to listen to this person again.
Deborah, for the sake of time, because there's so much information to cover here, I mean, we could spend all day here. There's another section that I would like to talk about, because I think it falls under your umbrella of image consulting, and that is dressing appropriately.
Right. A really important topic, because a lot of people are getting way too casual today with the online world. And they may never, even in the workplace environment, have a solidified or a clarified dress sort of culture or policy in that realm. But the idea is, who are you and who are you trying to communicate with and who are you trying to influence and persuade? And the idea is showing up as that professional that you are, which means that even from a female point of view, you're going to need a bit more makeup. For the guys, I always recommend, you really want to keep your hair really well groomed. And I always like shorter than better is kind of the adage that I go with. So, but really looking sort of dressy, casual, smart looking, and impactful looking. eyeglasses are the new big thing. And when we're on screen right now, these are slightly magnifying glasses. But at the end of the day, these glasses are for the blue lights that are on the camera screen, and of course, LED lighting in the office, which are really hard on the eyes. So this actually helps to mitigate some of the harshness, and is a real advantage. But you can go with frames for the glasses, emphasizing the makeup, the brows, the eyelashes, a little bit more of the lips, but wearing complementary colors and not a lot of pattern that is going to be small that will move as you're moving with the camera. So those are some of the points that I think are really important. And I like the idea of powdering the face, definitely, and covering up some of the shiny areas of the face. That becomes important.
I can see how you make people look good on camera.
Thank you, Moreno.
I've just taken my glasses off listening to you.
When we talk about colors too, like you have a background, a virtual background, and I have a natural background. But, even when we were redesigning our office, I was looking at paint colors of what would be suitable and what really shows up well. So we actually chose like a darker blue gray, which works really well. Like I like this color. It actually reflects the light in such a way that it's not as harsh or bright in the office. But a lot of it, the background is interesting stuff that actually is a reflection of me. I love some original artwork. These are all pieces that are important to me. I've got a picture of my dad with his horse, and you really want to make sure that you create a space and a background that's comfortable for you and that actually reflects well into the camera as well.
Yes, you mentioned that I have a virtual background. Actually, it's not. It's a poster.
But
it looks 8 by 6 foot poster.
Okay, I love that. I mean, I think it's great. But you know what? The virtual ones, like how you move and like your hand disappears or your hair disappears or your head's gone. I am not in favor of those. You look great, Moreno. You look great. Thank you.
Yeah, we should also, about dressing appropriately. Yes, I agree with you that, we shouldn't be too critical of ourselves, and smart casual always works. We should wear clothes that make us feel comfortable.
Right.
And we need to wear something that makes us feel confident. Hairstyle, like you mentioned, is very important. The colors are important. Everything needs to match. And definitely for video, it is always preferred to wear solid colors to avoid patterns, because those create the moire effect on video, which we want to avoid.
It's a weird effect when you see it, isn't it? It's kind of strange.
Yeah, it's as if your clothes are alive and moving. And also too much white can set the camera balance off.
The jewelry part of it is really important too. So sometimes people are wearing microphones, and sometimes they've just got the earbuds in that are wireless, and sometimes they have the ones that hang down, or they have a piece that comes around. When the earrings for the ladies, when they move, that can be distracting. I'm wearing ones that go right into the ear, so they're not actually moving. But sometimes the pieces of jewelry that you wear could be noisy. If it's a bracelet that you're moving with it, you accidentally hit your mouse or the desk, and then you can hear the clanging for wrist bracelets. So you got to be selective about the type of pieces that you want. And you can choose, really bold pieces of jewelry if you want to be able to do that. That's fine as well.
Deborah, do you think it's a good idea to wear plastic jewelry? It won't make a noise.
Hey, I think they still make a noise. I like the real stuff, Moreno. I'm sorry, I do. Real gold and real silver. I actually, have a few key pieces that are like, they're lovely pieces, but I personally don't like the fake stuff. I like all sorts of different types of interesting stones. Like some of the bolder and more chunkier pieces. I've got some turquoise pieces that are really chunky. But you got to be aware they're also heavy. So if you're in front of the camera and you're sitting there, they can really weigh down on your neck, and it can be tiring and it can be exhausting. Oh, one other point I want to make about the camera too is your chair becomes really important. I chose to have a chair that hairdressers use. It's a saddle chair. So actually, when I sit on it, there's no back on the chair. It swivels and it moves, but it actually plants my feet slightly farther apart. So I'm a bit more stable in the chair. But I actually find it more attractive for camera because I'm not looking, the audience is not looking at the back of a chair. So if you do happen to have a credenza or a bookcase or a desk behind you, you're not banging that piece of furniture with the back of a chair.
Yes. The chair is very important because we need to feel comfortable. If we're not comfortable, it shows.
Oh, yeah.
About the plastic jewelry, we'll trash it. And yes,
Good plan.
We need to cover any zits with powder.
Yes. I mean, this goes for guys too, by the way. I think it's the other thing is you can cover it with powder and you can spray it with to help to moisten the powdery look. But a lot of times you're not actually going to see it, depending on the distance and the way you are from the camera. So there are times that you have to make a point. You got to lean into the camera, so you don't want to scare anybody away when you're leaning in.
Yes, Deborah, smile.
Yes,
smiling is so important on camera, and many times I've been told, smile.
I think we forget that. Sometimes people are making a really serious point of view, and I have a lot of serious topics that I talk about a lot of the times. The humor comes out more when I'm dealing one-on-one with people, but the smiling, we do forget about that when we're kind of talking and making a point. So I think you have to be very intentional about it, which is,
of course, it must be natural.
Yeah, when you're presenting, you mentally have to be very present. I mean, you got to be in the room, present, talking to the other person or talking to your audience rather than thinking further away. And that thinking can kind of result in that face going a little bit more flat and serious.
When we become comfortable on camera, that's when it becomes so much easier to smile because the smile comes naturally.
Yeah, I mean, you got to laugh at yourself, right? Like we have a little tech glitch in the beginning, so we're kind of laughing in the process. So.
Yes. I think this has been one of the sessions where we've laughed, smiled the most.
Definitely.
People need to smile at the beginning of a video shoot because that immediately sets our audience at ease and we can relate to them better. And
the smiling sets us as speakers at ease as well, too. If we're joyful and we're excited about having another conversation with each other, which I always love having a conversation with you, Moreno, that part of it is I'm looking forward to the conversation, which means we start out with that joy, the smile, and the energy. It's elevated.
Yes, it shows an energetic you.
Definitely.
And like you say, we need to smile in accordance with our message. Show that, we're excited. Makes us look natural and welcoming.
Definitely.
And smiling with the mouth, but also smiling with the eyes. Maintain a good, relaxed eye contact with the audience. Yes, we all need to look at the camera when we present because we're making eye contact with the viewer. And that is so very important. We see nowadays, as a result of COVID, so many more people are presenting online, and many experienced people look at the lens, and many non-experienced people are not looking at the lens because they're looking at the image on the screen. And unfortunately, that immediately cuts the connection with the viewer.
I mean, you don't want to be staring at the lens as if you're interrogating somebody, like glaring at it, because you wouldn't be doing that naturally in a face-to-face conversation. You'd be looking away or down, or, and it's okay as a speaker to glance at your notes and to just say, hey, I'm going to take a sip of water. I'm just going to check my notes and just see where we're at. It's that kind of dialogue of telling people what you're going to do, keeps them engaged and pulled into the conversation.
Do you feel I'm staring at you?
I feel the burning of the lens.
Whereas I feel that I'm speaking to a friend when I'm speaking to you. So
Absolutely.
your gaze into the lens is perfect.
That's great. And you got to be relaxed, right? Which is another point that you and I wanted to talk about, of being super relaxed on camera, and actually how we would go about being relaxed when we feel a little bit of trepidation or nervousness about going on camera, especially going on live, right?
Yes. I don't want to leave this section with, we must always speak with passion whenever we say anything, because that brings the audience in, keeps the audience engaged. The last section that I want to cover here is looking at the camera, which we've just mentioned, which is so critically important. And that takes practice. It took me a long time to get comfortable looking at the camera. In the beginning, above my camera, I put a pair of eyes with an arrow in the middle, and I put that just above my webcam lens. And I found that would remind me to look at the lens when I would not be looking at the lens. Now I've taken it away because I've grown accustomed to it, but it took me a long time, like a year.
Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, that adjustment sometimes, depending on what you've got around your computer and what's in your room, but you're right, you need something initially to hold your attention there. If you're a little bit uncomfortable about the technology and the computer and what piece of software you're going to be using as you're running a live or a video. So there's a lot of sometimes moving pieces, and that is the reminder of knowing where to focus.
Like when you're presenting to a large audience on stage, a live stage experience that you've had a lot of, you focus on certain one or two people in the audience that you can relate to. And then during your presentation, you speak to these 2, 3 people in the audience, correct?
Yeah, I do that. But there's a really significant difference by being in a large room with an audience or being on stage with a large audience. Is you're moving across that stage, but your head is scanning as well. So on camera, you're not moving. Your body is not moving. You're sitting stationary.
Yes, and
And
that's
if
the
you
point
want
I
to,
want to make.
yeah,
That
and so
on camera, you need to imagine that you're speaking to one person.
you're holding your whole body more still as you're looking into the camera. So while I'm looking into the camera, the audience is thinking, wow, she's talking to me, like if I'm having a conversation with you, the audience. At the end of the day, when you're in a live audience, you're scanning the room and you're looking around. So that becomes just a new tool, a new way of doing things online, where you're a little bit more centered, a little bit more present, you're engaging. So it is like having a conversation with one single person into that camera.
I'm imagining. Actually, I don't need to imagine that I'm speaking to you, because I know you well enough now to listen to what you're saying through the speakers. And I, in a sense, see you through the lens because I'm imagining that.
Right.
However, when we are speaking to someone or a group of people that we are not familiar with, then we need to imagine addressing one person in that group. We need to engage our imagination. That's the area that I find most challenging presenting online.
Yeah, and I think if we have in mind that really comfortable person where we're not only having a comfortable person we're having a conversation with, but who is that person that actually pulls out a lot of that energy and passion from us. If you imagine that person, it's a lot easier to actually reflect that energy into the camera back to that person, to mirror them.
This is such an interesting topic, and we've come to the end. Debbie, we've reached the end of today's program. That was 30 minutes of getting comfortable on camera.
It goes so fast.
Yes. Again, thank you so much for sharing your ideas and experience. We always welcome your participation, Deborah.
Thank you, Moreno. Always a pleasure. And to our audience, thank you.
Before we go, I think we should give our audience a link to our webinar on this coming Tuesday, 11 a.m. PST, where we will talk about steps one can take to go online live, which covers many of the topics that we've discussed this morning. To our attendees, a big thank you. Remember to register for our getting you going online live on Tuesday, the 25th of January. Until next time, goodbye and see you soon.
Bye, everyone.